Episode 4 of the Sectional Podcast. This one's going to be kind of cool, guys. It's kind of like a crossover episode. You've noticed this year that everybody's got a podcast going on. It's kind of the trend with the fans in the Canadian Football League and kind of a protest in my mind because, you know, TSN and whatever, that's all hockey, hockey, hockey. Even with the paper and the media is here, you know, they're so inundated with Oilers. And, you know, fans want the Canadian Football League. These people are protective of their league and they want to see it shine. So the fans have actually banded together to create their own sort of media, independent media with the CFL podcasts. And happy to have Andrew on. He's from the Esks Empire podcast. We got 2 podcasts in Edmonton. That's right, hey?
I know, we went from 0 to 2 in a matter of a couple of weeks. So thanks for having me, Matt. I really appreciate it.
How many podcasts do you have downloaded right now? How many do you listen to?
Right now, I probably listen to about 12, with about 7 or 8 of those being CFL ones. So that takes up a lot of my driving time, which is perfect. And I know that the explosion kind of the CFL podcast this year has been amazing. There's been a lot more of them, which is wonderful. And we're hearing from more teams, which is great. I think the only teams that don't have one right now are Winnipeg, Toronto, and Montreal. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, something like that. I just really like how, like I said earlier, if the Toronto Maple, while we saw it with the Argos press conference when they moved to BMO, probably the biggest news in the last decade or so regarding the Argos, and it gets buried because Mike Babcock signs with the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, that seemed like a rather bad moment to have both happening at the same time. Here we're all excited about the Argos and the positivity of the CFL in Toronto, and like you said, getting buried by the wrong story, I think.
But it's indicative of a bigger issue, in my mind, is in this country, and I'll go ahead and say it, and I don't care what people say, you guys can drop a comment underneath my video on YouTube there, lay down a comment and hate on me for what I'm about to say.
You get a few of those, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This country has a complete unhealthy obsession with the NHL, and it's not hockey. Okay, I don't care what people say. You are not hockey fans. You are an NHL fan, and I'll tell you why. The Marlies don't draw in Toronto.
It's a good point.
Junior hockey doesn't draw in Toronto. Come here to Edmonton. The Oil Kings don't draw unless they're in the Memorial Cup or in the playoffs. The AJHL doesn't. People want NHL-specific news, and they want everything and anything to do with the NHL, and that pushes the CFL back down the radar. And for fans that are into the CFL, and you can understand, you and I are pretty big into it, and other people that are listening to this show as well, it's kind of frustrating. Where's my news? Where's my conversation and commentary on the CFL? Oh, wait, somebody sneezed on the Vancouver Canucks. Better make this top story, right?
Yeah, what are the Twins doing today? Wait a minute. And it's unfortunate we find that, you know, we do have some good CFL coverage and, you know, some of the people that we know, but you're right. It tends to get buried under hockey and usually NHL, and that does seem it's harder to take, especially when you're fans like you and I.
And now you have the fans that have banded together. And you know what? Enough of this. We're going to make our own media. So that's great to see. So tell me, what got you into the podcast trend now?
Well, I think it actually started back. I started listening to a podcast about 8 or 9 years ago with the Nerdist podcast is where I actually started. And then all of a sudden there was CFL podcasts popping up. And the first I listened to there was BC Lions Den. I'm sure you're aware of that one. And it just kind of got me excited about listening to more news about the CFL and the teams that we love. And then I thought, well, hey, if they're talking about it, maybe I could talk about it. And it took me about a year to get the right spots together for how I wanted it to run, and so that's what got me to where we are now, and just through episode 4 last week, and episode 5, which you're going to come on mine right away, will be this week.
Yeah, that's what I found with the Section O podcast, but I kind of did it for a different reason. One, I wanted to be cool like everybody else. All the cool kids got podcasts, guys. I want to get in on the podcast.
Wait a minute, are you calling me a cool kid? I'll take that. I'll take it.
You are a cool kid.
Thanks.
You're not a kid. You're an adult. You're a cool adult.
I am. Well, hey, I'll even take that as an extra compliment. A cool adult. That makes me seem like I might actually be grown up or sophisticated or something.
Never grow up. It's a trap.
This is what I've heard. Yeah.
Grow with age, but never grow up.
Oh, I'm good at that. I just told you I was listening to the Nerdist podcast. Come on. I'm right into all that stuff still.
There you go. Yeah, anyway, I was saying with my podcast there, I was listening to a few of them, and again, you guys can drop a comment in the box below, because I'm going to get some hate for this. I just wasn't impressed with them.
Really?
And wow. And it's not that they didn't do a good job. You guys do a really good job on your podcast.
Thank you.
They're informative. But you know what? I can't sit there for an hour and listen to somebody recite a stat book. I just can't do it. That's me. Somebody enjoys that content, all the power to you. Myself, I'm more into what's surrounding the game. You know, what's going on at the stadium? What are the fans doing? You know, let's get hyped for this game. So I decided, you know what? If these people aren't going to let me on their podcast, because, you know, you're going to have to put a bleep button in there every once in a while. So
I'm prepared. And you know what? And I actually think that this is good, because between the two of us, I think we're actually covering the team in the full sense of the matter, in the fact that our podcasts aren't exactly the same, but they're both giving lots of information about the Eskimos, and that's really what we want, right, is more information and more talk about the Eskimos and in the CFL in general, is just that chance to connect with more people about this thing that we get to see every week, or that we want to see every week, and it just gives you another chance to talk to people, learn about the team more, and have that interaction. And you're doing it totally from the fan perspective, which is awesome. And I like to focus more on some of the stats and some of the excitement things of which players I like and those types of things. And so I think it's actually a perfect balance.
Yeah, it you know what, it covers both ends of the spectrum. And hopefully as this thing grows, podcasts get better and better each episode. As you can tell, like my first podcast, I completely bombed it. Well, in my mind, I don't, you know, but
I thought it was pretty good. I know the first one that we recorded, when I listened back to it, I thought, ooh, you can tell that I'm nervous, but
oh yeah,
now it's getting a bit more comfortable.
And jittery, and actually, my first podcast, the microphone screwed up, so I got a bunch of hate feedback going, learn how to use your effing microphone, you idiot. And I was like, what? Like, what's going on? So I went into I was like, oh, I was recording through the microphone on the laptop. My bad. People.
Well, hey, I could still hear you. I know that it's little things, right? Like, you just kind of learn as you go, and that's the fun part. I know audio editing is a new world for me, and but it's starting to get better. I think it's almost starting to sound smooth. Well, I'm going to cross my fingers on that it'll get better.
So, last night's game.
Yes.
Who impressed you? Who kind of got your brain rattled there?
Well, I've really made no secret of this in my podcast, is that I got a bit of a man crush going on for Franklin, and did he ever show in a game last night that he could play? I really, really liked how he came in and showed poise and was stable in the backfield, threw some great balls down the field, and he really impressed me, as he has basically from the beginning of training camp. So little soft spot there, I guess, which makes me a tad biased, but hey, that one I really liked.
A guy that got me jumping out of the seat actually twice, and that was in the first quarter. By the way, if he's listening to this podcast, Adam Konar, you are never allowed to smoke somebody as hard as you did when I'm taking a drink. Because
how much spit did you take out there? Yeah.
Oh my God, it was almost alcohol abuse. I was watching, and my buddy Aaron is sitting right beside me, and he just smoked that Ryder guy, and just right at the same time I was taking a drink, and I shot off the couch. I was like, whoa, with, kind of a mouthful of vodka Mountain Dew, and it just almost spilt all over the carpet. I was like, did I just see what he just did? And then the very next play, he laid another guy out.
Yeah, he was a beast last night. I thought he played very well. I don't think we're at a point where we're saying, well, now let's start looking at this guy as a starter. But holy, the depth on defense in general last night, very, very happy to see that. Our second and third guys are still impressing us and making us stand up and cheer. So I was very impressed with that.
There was another play, I think it was the second quarter or whatnot, and Rob Bagg is downfield expecting a pass, and good thing he didn't catch it.
Oh, yeah, that was the one that went through his hands, right? Yeah.
And I think it was Dexter McCoyle had him lined up in the trolley track.
Yeah, that would have been a cut in half, yeah.
And I put it on Twitter. I said, Rob Bagg is so lucky he did not catch that football, because we actually slowed it down on PVR. Like, we're looking at it, we're like, oh, my God, please catch this football. Please catch this football, because Dexter McCoyle would have taken his head off.
Oh, sure. He had him lined. The thing is, we're going to see that a lot with McCoyle this year, right? I think that's going to be exciting to watch just in general, as every time that he comes close to the ball, that's going to be an exciting play. The other thing that kind of caught me last night was just looking at some of the offensive guys in general. We had receivers that were kind of all over, but one that in camp hasn't stood out to me at all. But Wallace Miles had a couple of really nice catches last night. Did you think so?
Yeah, I thought Wallace Miles looked good. But it's preseason, and game number 2, when they get more vets going, that's when you really start to evaluate these players, and you really put stock into how they fared. It's cut down day today. So we're going to kind of thin the herd a little bit. Only the strong survive. So we definitely have to pay more attention in preseason game number 2, because that's where it's a make it or break it.
Absolutely, and I think that if last year holds true, your cut down list isn't going to come right till the end of the day. The nice thing that we can say after preseason game 1 is that there are going to be some tough decisions for the coaches, and we haven't been in a position like that in a while, where it's been, usually your first round cuts, we kind of have a pretty good idea who's going where, but I think we might actually see some names go, and because there's some other guys that are making this very interesting.
All right, let's go a little off track here. Let's go a little off the rails. It's game day at your house. What's going on?
Well, game day usually for me is depending on if it's an afternoon game or an evening game. Afternoon game, usually 1 and or 2 of my children will come with us, but otherwise it's a date night for my wife and I. So we usually get all fired up and get all our gear on, and usually parking, somewhere in the realm of a couple hours before the game. Find our way down to grab some supper, and then end up we usually are at the stadium pretty close to when the doors are opening, just so that we can go in and tour some of the new stuff and get into our seats. We sit in a fan section, K2, which is, we call ourselves the dedicated dozen. There's 12 of us that sit right beside the stairs, and they're kind of like our football family, and we sit in there and visit with them and get ready, and then as soon as the game's going, then there's a lot of yelling coming out of that particular section, mostly from me because I have a loud voice.
Who sits with you?
My wife is almost always with me. And then we've got a family that sits right in front of us that has been there for the 6 years that we've been sitting there, and they've got a couple older kids, and then the mom and her sister and their friends, and then we've got a couple that sits beside us that's also friends of that family. So we kind of all sit together, and it's kind of nice because we keep getting updates every week on where everybody's at. So it's nice.
Did your wife know what she was getting into when she married you?
She did, actually, and I told this story on my podcast. One of our first dates was actually to Return Classic, Labor Day Classic, and it was one of those times.
Oh, God.
I know,
Was it?
And actually, you'll be impressed with this. We were sitting in Section O right at the top. Had a great laugh because it ended up being one of those games of 55,000 people, and I was explaining the game because she was just learning about it. Totally sold on it after that experience, and we got season tickets next year, and the year after, and we haven't missed a game since. So Luckily for me, she was into it, and she knew that I got rather excited about it by that point. So when she married me, she knew what she was getting into.
See, my girlfriend refuses to come to the game. She's like, I can't sit beside you guys, which is completely different from the spectrum because Jay's girlfriend sits right between me and Jay. So if there was ever a worse
spot,
if there was ever a worse spot to sit, Chelsea sits right there. Actually, she handles it like a champ. She gets into it too, and her and Jay have a good time around it. And I wouldn't suggest other people sit between me and Jay because it can get pretty loud. And
it's a strong person right there. She gets extra points at the end of the year.
Yeah, and she can handle all the unparliamentary language that gets thrown out every once in a while.
What? I can't believe that. Really?
Aaron, I don't know if you've met him, but he sits a couple rows down with us. He used to bring a bullhorn in.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, I guess Commonwealth banned him X amount of years ago, whatever, but we've actually been petitioning the Eskimos to get this bullhorn back. So listen for this thing at Commonwealth this year if they let us back in. He's got his signature thing that he used to do, and it's, if you think the Eskimos are going to get a touchdown or whatever it is, give me a hell yeah. And then you get about 20, 30 people behind him, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. Hell yeah. So anyway, we're going to try and duplicate that this year. We always try to bring something new into the fold. Actually, my whole stupid dress-up started at the 2008 game in Vancouver. Me and Jay went to BC. It's actually the opening day of the 2008 Olympics. It was our first, real travel game because I went to Mark's Wear Workhouse a couple of nights before and I bought the hard hat that I still wear now. Spray painted it green and gold, threw all the stickers on it, got some yellow rain shorts actually, and I cut them to make, and I threw the jersey on and Jay did the same, and we went to Vancouver, and that's where it kind of developed this Section O uniform, you could kind of say. And actually,
that was older than that. 2008 only. I thought it was older than that.
And that hard hat is still the original hard hat that I made in 2008. I was thinking of retiring it this year, but no.
Wow, that's impressive. I can imagine that hat has a few stories.
We've drank out of it. It's been used as a safety bucket.
Of course, yeah.
But it hasn't been thrown out. It's been used as a safety bucket, but it's never. Thanks for coming on the Section O podcast.
Absolutely, thanks for having me, Matt, and I'm looking forward to having you on mine. And
for people that want to follow you on Twitter, where can they follow you?
They can follow us at Esks Empire Pod, so ESKEMPIREPOD, and we'll have all the links from everything on there because we have Facebook and Periscope and all those types of things too.
Cool. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, man.
Guess who's back? Rory, you're back on the podcast. What's going on in the house, buddy?
Hey, Section O. Yeah, well, first off, hello to the Empire out there. Just want to give a shout-out to all of our awesome Edmontonians that showed their love for the regimental service of Constable Woodall today. And how's your first podcast as a newly single man?
Oh, yeah, that makes the news. Hey, well, it's there were tears yesterday, but today's a new day. We got to move forward. So what do you got for me today?
What do I got for you today? I don't know. There's lots on my mind. I want to give another shout-out to our man, Corbin Sharoon. It's what's done is done, and it's the business. None of it's a big surprise to any of us that follow this league. But I just want to shout out to the dude for his contributions to the Esks team. It's a crappy business, and we move on with a very young, exciting player, Adam Konar. I'm not going to go into any more details than that. I'd sure love to call out all those fair-weather football fans in Vancouver. I mean, we are playing in the preseason at what I believe is called David Sadhu UBC Thunderbird Stadium on Friday night.
Rory, calling out Vancouver.
I'm calling out Vancouver, quote-unquote, CFL fans.
Uh-oh, this one's going to get loud, folks. Rory, let's do it.
You guys may as well just put Sedin Lover or Ghost Seahawks on the back of all of your pukey orange jerseys. There's really no point. When you guys were 1-6 at the beginning of the 2011 season, the Facebook and posts on social media were just extremely negative. Everyone had given up. It was get rid of Wally Buono, get rid of half of the roster, burn the stadium down. It was get rid of the whole thing. You guys may as well have just gotten rid of your franchise right then and there and moved it to a city that actually gave a shit. But, a few months later, after you won 10 or 15 or however many straight games you won when you swept the rest of the season, everybody was a big BC Lions fan. People I know personally, some in my extended family, some in just my group of friends, people I know personally became big bandwagon jumping BC Lions fans because, of course, it's time to cheer for the BC Lions. They haven't lost a game since September or August, so, go Lions go, right? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And you win it all. Yeah, so now we're big BC Lion fans, right? But 2014, the playoff game, Matt, help me out here. Their playoff game was against Montreal?
Where they got shellacked. Like, absolutely shellacked.
Do you know how many people out of all the Vancouver sports fans that I know watched that playoff game? 0, right? You're in the playoffs. You're 3 wins away from a championship. You might want to watch the game. I don't know if you're a Lions. You might want to check out the fucking game. I don't know. I would have checked it out if I was a Lions fan, because it was a playoff game.
Maybe they were too busy rooting for the Seahawks or the Canucks were playing that night.
Probably just eating expired hot dogs at a Seattle Mariners home game.
Do you see how many people they get out for Vancouver Whitecaps at BC Place? That entire lower bowl is rocking.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well, hang on a sec. Let's be fair, because right now people are probably screaming at their computer right now. There's fair weather fans in every city. Why is Vancouver no different than, let's say, Edmonton when only 26,000 showed up to the playoff game against the Riders?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't know. The example that comes back to me is 2010 for us. 11 games into an 18-game season, we were 2-9. Stick a fork in us, we're done. Richie Hall couldn't coach his way out of a wet paper bag. We're playing a little event called Touchdown Atlantic way out in Moncton. I happen to know a group of guys named Section O that traveled all the way across the country to...
Hey, those guys are pretty cool.
Yeah, I heard they're all right. Anyways, a couple of fucking drunk morons, but, they're pretty cool. They traveled all the way across the country, and they supported the Eskimos. They didn't just go there and watch the football game. They went there and went all out. Over here in Section GP, if I remember correctly, that was a 10:30 Mountain Time start. 8 a.m., I had my grill on, and we were doing our thing here. There's no wavering whatsoever. And, and when you think about it, it was a good thing we didn't give up, because it wasn't until the very last game of the regular season in the fourth quarter where we actually missed the playoffs. We actually almost made the playoffs. So there's an example of how there's many of us here in Edmonton that don't quit. And I know there's Lions fans over there on the West Coast that are hardcore. We've met them. We know of you. We know you're there. But there's just not enough of you.
Do you think Vancouver's one of those towns that it's hockey, hockey, hockey? Like I said in my previous interview with Andrew, they have a complete unhealthy relationship with the NHL, and the Lions kind of get pushed to the back burner. More so than Edmonton, because Edmonton kind of shares the CFL landscape with the Oilers in a bit, but, come wintertime and whatnot, it's still all Oilers, Oilers, Oilers. But I think Vancouver is more of a market for the NHL.
That's a pretty fair assessment. I can't really add much to that. I wanted to ask you, what was that atmosphere like in 2011? I mean, we have a football team in Vancouver that was 1-6, and then I think that was the last of their losses. I don't know if they lost any more games after that. Didn't they finish 12-6? And then, of course, they swept the playoffs. They won the West Final against us, and then they beat the Blow Bummers in the Grey Cup Final. You were at that festival and at that event. Tell us all about what the heck was going on and what the atmosphere was like with the home team.
It was no different than the 2014 Grey Cup. You were in the red zone for the Grey Cup festivities downtown by the convention center. As soon as you stepped away from it, nobody knew what the hell was going on. Even more so in 2014. We're walking from the hotel to the Spirit of Edmonton room and we're getting looks and whatnot. But, I mean, as soon as you entered, like, ground zero for football, they had all the stuff set up, then you're with your own people. But Vancouver is one of those cities, right? They either love it or they're 50-50, kind of waiting on the bandwagon. And, Lions fans, you can drop your hate comment down in the comment section below under this video. But I believe that there are more diehard CFL football fans in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba than there are in BC.
So just to clarify, home team, Vancouver, the team wins it all in the festival and in the Grey Cup game that they're fucking hosting. And there was no level of give a shit with that championship. There was no major celebratory action after that game.
You mean they didn't burn the city down like when the Canucks lost Game 7?
Well, they didn't burn the city down in celebration. I don't know. I'm looking for... Did you not witness any fandom? In 2013, the Riders won it at home, right? the whole city and the whole province was a party for 40, 50, 60 hours after that football game.
See, I think, though, to compare every CFL city with Regina, or even like any CFL province with Saskatchewan, you're kind of comparing apples and oranges because Saskatchewan eats, breeds, and shits fucking CFL football.
Right, but I'm looking for something in the middle, aren't I? I'm not looking for 48 hours of partying out of Vancouver. I'm looking for 3 hours of people at the bar. Yay, our Lions won. 6 months of us following our team paid off. We're the champions. That should have meant something to somebody.
I'm sure there's some diehard fans out there, but no, you're right. For the most part, Vancouver's one of those casual towns.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're not hitting up the medicinal marijuana. Maybe that's why they're so mellow. Hey, it's all that BC dope they got out over there.
It could have been. You know what? It could have been. It could have been. And that's an interesting segue. If anybody out there is ever, up late at night watching PVR CFL action and somebody spikes your brownies, just go with it. It's actually not too bad. And I happen to have a really difficult time getting upset at the 400 billion penalties that were being fucking called. But that's neither here nor there.
Those penalties, it's going to be a kind of a learning curve the first couple of games. I think in the preseason game tonight, you're going to see a bunch of penalties being called. Because the special teams, especially on punts, I mean, it's their natural instinct. As soon as the ball snapped, head away downfield, right? Now they have to sit there and wait. But, it is what it is, and it's just something that we're all going to have to learn. And it'll be corrected by the end of the year. I don't think this penalty conundrum is going to continue throughout. I mean, it always seems to get corrected. Chris Jones is a pretty fucking smart guy.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Penalties are going to be a little bit of a learning process for the players and the coaches. And you know what? As a fan, I definitely I had a knee-jerk reaction. I was very concerned about some of the rule changes. But I'm actually a lot calmer about it now. The one thing I have to bring up is the actual point after moving 20 yards back. I have to bring it up. It's bothering me for 6 months now, however many months it's been. And now that I've watched a preseason game, my fears were confirmed. It's just too much. I totally understand what we're trying to do here. It's more appealing to go for two. We're going from the 3-yard line. Okay, I get it. And a 12-yard field goal for the point after is just way too close. It's almost difficult. It's such an obscure angle for all the kickers. But why 20 fucking yards back? Think about the percentage of field goals attempted in the Canadian Football League. What is the percentage of field goals attempted greater than 31 yards or 31 yards or closer? I'm sure the majority must be 31 yards or closer, especially when you've got so much inclement weather, injuries, and so on and so forth. Why in the hell do we have to go 20 yards back? Didn't we go a little bit too far? I mean, it's changed the entire landscape of scoring now. Gone are the days of 7, 14, 21, and it's going to be hard to let go of that. And here are the days of 6 and 8 on the board every fucking time. I'm actually thoroughly annoyed by it, and I really hope that we reconsider and maybe adjust this next season to maybe just from the 20-yard line for a 27-yard kick or another 5 yards closer. I just think 20 yards was way too fucking much.
Somebody got to reach out and give you some more of those pot brownies today. You're fired up.
I'm fucking fired right up, man. I almost got run over by a fucking car today.
How did you almost get run over by a car?
Well, it's not really relevant to what we're talking about on this podcast, but some fucking lady was making a left turn. She was so worried about picking her nose, smoking cigarettes, she accelerated right towards me, and if I didn't belt out, "Come on now," she would have hit me. She only missed me by about 6-7 feet.
It's just not your day today, is it?
I don't know.
Conversions being pushed back 20 yards, Fairweather BC Lions fans, and now you're almost getting hit by a car.
That's why we need That's why we need to live life to the fullest, drink as many beers, and drink as much crazy rum shots as we can, and watch as much CFL football as we can. Right, everybody?
There you go, everybody. Rory's got it called out for you. Live life to the fullest. That's what it's all about. Rory, thanks for coming on the show today. We'll catch you up in episode 5.
All right, that sounds awesome. I just wanted to one last time call everybody out for some passion. We need to make some noise for your Edmonton Eskimo defense. D! 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 Who wants the ball back?
We do!
I said, who wants the ball back?
We do!
Let's hear it for your Eskimo defense! Woo!